Hello and welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to live a different way, more in alignment with your soul, then do we have the Be, Feel, Think, Do show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Berube, a modern shaman, speaker, teacher, and the author of a beautiful soul-revealing journey, Be, Feel, Think, Do. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about what happens when your soul wakes up to who you truly are and how to get there. That, plus we'll talk about slot machines and granny, Toro, red blankets, and a 2-year-old, Shirley MacLaine and the Camino, 3,000 kilometers in an echo, Kauai and Lumeria, blue butterflies and rose oil, lilacs and Wayne Dyer, a special package for his daughter, and what in the world is Soulmate Day? Gotcha. So, bienvenue au spectacular on Êtes-vous prêt à briller?
Oh my gosh. Hi, Michael. It's so nice to be here with you. I love this.
Well, so great to have you on the show, and it is so phenomenal. I love your book. I love your work. Before we dive right into things, and we're going to go back into your journey, but I've got to ask, how did you meet Wayne Dyer?
So I started a company back in 2007 where I just selfishly wanted to gather people and have really deep, meaningful conversations. And I wanted speakers to come and share their wisdom. And eventually I started inviting more world-renowned teachers and spiritual teachers. And Deepak Chopra was actually my first real big speaker when I was running that production company. And once you have Deepak, it's easier to have anyone else. So I actually was able to meet Wayne through Deepak's agent. And I was able to meet him at an event on Kauai, actually. He was speaking to ophthalmologists, and I just lined up like everybody else, and I saw him and I said, I want you to come to Nova Scotia. And that was the first time I met him, and so much happened after that.
I love how the planets align too, because if I understand the phone call with you and Deepak's representative, you were saying that you could get all of 70 people there.
Yes. I know. I was so proud, Michael. I thought, that's huge. That's huge. 75. And it really was 50. So I was fibbing a little bit. But she looked at me and she said, well, she didn't look. She heard me and she said, Deepak doesn't speak for less than 1,000 people. Do you think you can make that happen? And a resounding yes in my body. Yeah, I can make that happen. And then I hung up the phone and then I thought, how am I going to make that happen?
So, and that's been, and
but
we're going to, we'll dive back into your journey now. And it's one of the key lessons from your life is when you get in alignment, what takes place, and your body letting you know when you're out of alignment. So maybe we can go back to 2001. Actually, I don't know why, but let's go back to 7:59 p.m. in February of 2001.
I love how you do your homework. Like, that is amazing.
Thank you.
So, I've had many peak experiences in my life, Michael, and and I think many of your listeners can relate to that, is that often we have experiences that they happen to us without our consent almost. They're sprung on us and we learn a big lesson, and where we want to get to eventually is a place where we don't need to have these dramas and these traumas happening. Yes. So that we can wake up. And I had a few of those before I went, okay, wait a second. I got to do this for me. And I'm not going to wait for the next big event to really step on my path and to listen to what I know to be true. And so in 2001, I was coming back from golfing with some friends. And if I look back on it now, I know I wasn't happy, but I don't think I knew what happiness was. I actually didn't. I didn't have the frame of reference for what that really, really meant, but I was not happy. And I was coming back from golfing with a friend, and my boyfriend at the time was driving the car, and he took a left turn into oncoming traffic, and a half-ton truck hit the passenger side of the car where I was sitting. And on the impact, my liver lacerated in half and my lungs partially collapsed, and I was unconscious. When I came back to my awareness, I realized I couldn't breathe. My lungs weren't working, and so I would pass out again. And that's when it happened, Michael. I mean, I can say that it's a near-death experience now. I can say that it was a peak experience now. But at the moment, it felt like a love and a feeling that I never experienced before. I saw in front of my mind's eyes my life. The one I was supposed to live, not the one that I was living. I knew it was mine because I could feel it. I could feel so strongly all the people I loved, the people that loved me, how connected I was to everything. When I woke up the next day in the hospital, I didn't have any language or frame of reference to explain what had happened. So I didn't share that with anybody for many, many years. But I knew that I needed to change my ways. And the feeling stayed with me very, very strongly. The feeling of this beautiful connection between our hearts and our souls. And so that was the beginning of living my life differently.
I love this line from the Camino, from Shirley MacLaine, that I guess jumped off the shelves at you. It is mankind's moral obligation to seek joy through the feeling of divinity within his or her own being.
Isn't that amazing? It's so powerful, and I can always go back to that sentence, Michael, because it has defined everything so far in the past, 17 years? Mm-hmm. Because that night I had an experience of myself, a kinesthetic experience of myself, and that was empowering because I couldn't forget that. And then later on, I talk about it in the book where I was living with pain, sinus pain for 2 years straight, and I was trying to write my thesis. I was in academia. I just had a baby boy, and the pain was getting stronger and stronger. So every day I'd wake up and I'd remember, oh yeah, I live in pain. There's nothing I could do. Medication, I had allergy tests, all the alternative, health approaches as well weren't working because it had nothing to do with that. It was all about the emotions that I was carrying in my body for so long, and I didn't know that they were creating all that pressure and that tension. And so one day my mother-in-law invited me to come to this course. It was called Women in Leadership. And I thought, this is great. Like, my ego was very satisfied. I was like, that's a great title. I am going to graduate from my PhD. I'll be a professor, and then maybe I'll be the head of the department one day. I'm pretty bossy. Yeah, this is good for me. Uh-oh. But if I knew what was going to happen in that course, Michael, for real, I would never have gone. So there it is again, another, almost like I'm tricked into an awakening. I didn't consciously make that choice. I went in thinking it was going to be something else. Well, I'm sitting in this circle of women, and the teacher starts to talk about a very different kind of leadership, one that comes from within and from our intuition, and our connection to our emotions, and breath. Deep, deep breath is so important and is a key tool to this leadership and this connection to our wisdom. And I'm listening to her, and I am frustrated. The pressure in my head is getting bigger. I was like, this is not what I signed up for. The women in the group are crying. Every time that she brings up something that feels so vulnerable, they're allowing their cries to come out, and they're breathing deeply, and my headache is, the pressure in my head is getting worse. So I'm waiting for her to take a break in her talk so that I can go to the washroom, excuse myself, and not come back. Well, she never took that break, and she looked at me and she said, "Anne, are you okay?" She can tell that I am under pressure. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. She says, "Anne, why don't you take a deep, deep breath?" And it's the last thing I wanted to do, Michael. My head said, "Don't you dare take that breath. You don't know what's going to happen." And my heart was like, "Anne, you have to take that deep breath. This is it." So I listened to my heart. I don't know how or why, but I did. I took that deep counter instinctual breath. And the next thing I know, I'm the one in this mess of snot and tears and the sounds that are coming out of my mouth. It's huge. And I feel naked. I feel vulnerable. She even came over and she put her hand on my back and she said, this is what it looks like when someone's held in 27 years of emotional baggage in their body. But what happened, Michael, that day is the pain went away completely. It hasn't come back. After 2 years, it never came back after that. It's my barometer, though. As soon as I start to feel a little pressure, I know. So the pain went away, but also, Michael, I met myself that day. That's what happened. I met myself. I realized that I live in my body, that who I really am is inside. And I had an experience of that. And that's going back to Shirley MacLaine's quote, is that to fully feel the experience of being a spiritual being living in this human body means that we need to feel the sensations, the emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, so that we can embody ourselves. And when we embody our soul in this way, not only are we healthier, we have more energy, but we are free. We are emotionally free.
Woohoo!
Yeah!
I like what you say, embody our soul, because what it sounds like is you had a tug of war going on between the thinking mind and your soul was going to put you under sinuses. And I actually I'm thinking about it and connecting the dots now, 5-year sinus infection and 2 operations. There's something in there. But you were under pressure from your soul.
Yes. And the way I see it is that when an emotion comes up, we label it as bad and we say, wait a second, I don't want to feel that. But just like you said, it's actually the soul, the light coming through our life force pushing, and it's wanting to embody us. It's wanting to take up more space in our body, but our limiting beliefs are saying, nope, remember the last time you did that? Remember when you were 3? Remember when you were 5? No way. And so we can talk therapy for years and years and years around those limiting beliefs. But Michael, it is quantum when we can connect with the direct experience of where those beliefs live in the cells of the body, which is, Bruce Lipton's whole wisdom in epigenetics.
It's cool. When I go back to your story and I'm thinking about your granny, and I'm thinking about her as a rebel. And in a sense, we get to be a rebel and you get to be a rebel to say, I'm not going with the thinking mind with what seems on paper to be right, because that isn't my path.
Yes. And I love that you brought that up, because sinus pain was her challenge as well. And I don't know if I write that in the book.
You do mention it once, yes.
Yes. And
that she was struggling with it when she had moved.
Yes, exactly. And she was a visionary. She also knew a different way of living, but it was never part of her path to make those different decisions and choices, to really step on it, on the path, aligned with who you really are. But I'm so grateful for that spunk and that energy and that rebel energy that you bring up, because I got that from her.
So spunk, energy, a Toyota Echo, and a 3,000 kilometer round trip drive.
Yes, I know. This beautiful man who showed up in my life right around the time of the car accident was showing me unconditional love. What love felt like when it came with freedom. I did not know that you could be loved and be free at the same time. Had no idea. I thought that love had always conditioned and it trapped you. So this beautiful man comes into my life and he shows me this love that is completely free. And at the beginning, I couldn't handle that, could not handle that, because you can't recognize it when it doesn't live in your cells in the same way that your beliefs do. And so I sabotaged that relationship and then I moved away. Well, I couldn't let it go. This man I knew was meant to be in my life. And so I did the trip, made the trip across from all the way from the west coast of Ontario and all the way to the east coast of Nova Scotia. And I was coming back to get my soulmate. And I think at the time I was just, I was ready for anything that happened, whether he was open to it or not. I just knew I had to do that. I had to say yes to what was good for me. I had to say yes to what was good for me.
It's such an important theme, and it's one that comes up and up again. At one point, you get your PhD. Actually, I guess I should ask before we go into some of these things. And I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce this right, but it was genius. Autopoiesis.
Autopoiesis.
Yeah. So how did you shift your thesis? Actually, I guess we've got to go back one step further because we're going to talk about how all this connects. But I lived in Maui for 3.5 years. I get Lemuria. I mean, I really get it. I lived on the side of Haleakala. I get it. What happened when you got to Kauai? How did that start to change you? And then how did you try to put the jigsaw back together?
Mm-hmm. So, once I had that experience in the Women in Leadership course, I knew I'd found something that was really special. I freed myself within, and I wanted to learn more about what had happened and how I can share that with other people. So one of the things that I did is I went to study with a kahuna in Kauai. Her name is Laura Kealoha Yardley. And this was on the recommendation of my teacher back home, who had supported me in that group process that I shared earlier. And the thing is that when we process emotions, Michael, I'm sure you've noticed, and a lot of your listeners have noticed, is that you become more attuned and you become more sensitive. And so I was starting to feel energies I hadn't felt before. And so when my teacher would talk about Lemuria or Huna and the energy that comes from the ancient, the Pleiades energy, like from home, from the stars, I could feel what she was talking about. So I heard the call. And I think it's important to just follow the call. And so I went all the way to Kauai. And I started to study with this woman. And when she shared with me her perspective of Lemuria, my whole body was vibrating. I thought, wow, I'm home. This is home. Not just Kauai, but this energy is so familiar, more familiar than anything I've experienced before. But it did remind me of the energy in the car accident, though. There was a familiarity to it. I was starting to see all the breadcrumbs, right, line up.
For those who aren't familiar with Lemurian energy, what can you tell us about it?
Yes, and so the legend says that 25,000 years ago, we came from the stars, and so we were in expanded light beings that communicated with each other through telepathy. And we were connected to each other deeply. We were connected to nature. We were connected to the animals. We lived on Earth in a very different way than we live now. And we were very etheric. We lived longer. And one of the things that I've read and that really resonates with me is that we didn't used to give birth through, the birth canal. We would just choose as a couple to nurture and foster a soul for hundreds of years together. And so it wasn't as dense as it is now. So what happened is that there was also Atlantis who was existing at the same time, and their connection was to energy and crystals, and there was more of a power desire there to use the energy of the crystal to get what we wanted and what they wanted. And so at some point, that greed for power brought an imbalance to the planet, and the continents went under. And so that's how the legend goes, is that we descended into deeper, dimensions that are deep, like denser. And we've been trying to come back to that since then. And I feel very strongly that it is possible for us to come back to a place of living like that. Now, if you read the literature in different religions and different spiritual wisdom, they all have different ways of explaining and expressing the same legend. And so it's metaphors, right, Michael? It's all metaphors. The important thing is when someone hears the metaphor, if it resonates with them, then that's true. Wayne would say the only measure of truth is how it feels inside you. That's it.
Which transition, thank you. That was a beautiful description. And it leads us, I could look out behind me, behind this beautiful backdrop. There is a mountain literally on fire behind me. And I had Dr. Joe on just a day or two ago talking about mass consciousness and mass emergence. And I'm thinking about how we are shifting from heavy to light and how it's such a time of polarity right now. Now, you said that Wayne Dyer said a test is how it makes you feel or how it feels. What does it mean to live from a place of be and feel?
Oh, it's so different. It's so different than what we were taught, because we don't trust how we feel. We judge our feelings really, really quickly. But the sensation in the body of the emotion before it becomes a story, before it becomes a thought, is the truth. It's your truth, and because you're the universe and nothing else exists outside of yourself, it is the truth. We live in this world of duality right now, but what is happening is we're shifting our consciousness so that we can see beyond the duality and go, wow, it's not black and white. And how can I navigate the gray area? This is huge right now, because it's not about choosing a side and saying this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. It's about taking that step back and looking, okay, I can see that both of those are truth depending on the perspective of the person. And if you can see that, then you can enter at where they're at. You can bridge for them. And you can bridge for both people. And that is what we're called to do, is to be the leader, to lead ourselves in that endeavor to have a wider perspective. At the end of the day, what matters is how we feel when we go to bed and how we feel when we wake up in the morning. If we can be at peace within ourselves and we can have a sense of stillness, which is being, and we can honor and trust our feelings, not from a place of mind, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of direct experience, and Wayne would say impersonal. At the cellular level, it's very impersonal. It has nothing to do with your character, has nothing to do with the other person. It is a direct experience that is kinesthetic. And if we can trust that, then the world changes around us, because we're not using our old beliefs to react. We are engaging from a place of creativity. Very different. Beautiful.
So you get your PhD. There's some wine and cheese and sweets involved with that. You completely rewrote or wrote a new fourth portion, which is just brilliant. You're there starting to teach, if I understand correctly. And unless I have it wrong, and it's actually before then, it's after your last degree you're starting to teach. But your belly flip-flops on you.
My belly flip-flops on me?
I guess it's elementary school.
Right, that was before. Yes, that was before. Yes. So that is kind of the story of my life. I go for something and then I realize it's not for me. And I know many people go through that right now, because it's not like, our parents or our grandparents where they took the one job at 20 years old and they stayed with it. We actually we can't, the acceleration is too great. We can't do that. And so at the beginning, I was a little hard on myself when I would show up in this thing that I wanted. And I was like, it doesn't feel like I thought it would feel. What's wrong with me? Well, it's not that. It's that the expectation that were put on me and that I put on myself did not give space for changing your mind and failing, right? Just failing and making a mistake, which is part of the creative process. If we don't try and fail, we will never get to where we want to be. It's just as simple as that. But I had this beautiful job in a private school, and I just gone through my education degree, and I'm so proud of myself. My parents were so proud of me, Michael. And then I show up in the classroom and I look at the kids and they're so beautiful, and I also know this is not for me. This is not for me. And that has been my path, is following the breadcrumbs, engaging, making decisions, and then adjusting. It's not that I didn't want to teach. It's that that wasn't my context. I was in the wrong context. That's it. Because I teach all the time today. That is what it was just the wrong context.
That makes perfect sense. And in trusting your feelings, what does it mean to make your soul your leader?
It's juicy. It's delicious. I want to go, So, most of us live from a do, think, feel, be perspective. Most of us react out of habit on automatic pilot, going through our days without really stopping and asking ourselves why we do the things we do. And then we think so much, it's pretty amazing we have time to do, because we're so busy up here, about 70,000 thoughts a day. And the bad news is that most of those thoughts, 90% of those thoughts, are recycled from the day before, because we only operate at this level. Do think, do think, do think, do think. There's no creativity. Nothing new can come in. So then when we come into the feeling from that perspective, we fear our feelings. We don't love to fully feel. It's uncomfortable. Numbness is better. But like Bruce Lipton would say, the cells in our body can't be in protection mode and in growth mode at the same time. They can't. So when I keep at bay the bad, what I perceive as bad, I also keep at bay the peace and the joy that's available to me. I can't be selective like that. So then when we go down to be, it's ironic, right? We are human beings, and we barely get to be in the run of a day. But be is home. Be is where you can go. And I think of it, and I can't, because of the way the camera is, I can't put my hands on my belly in a way you'll see it. But that's where it is. That's where be lives in my body. And at the base of my spine, Michael, if I can bring my attention and my breath at the base of my spine, and I can reach in for that in-breath through my nose and breathe deeply into the base of my spine, and I breathe out through the mouth, I come home. And then I'm in being. And for anyone who struggles with too many thoughts and the loop and the monkey mind, if you can bring, and we can do it together today we'll do a little visualization meditation, is to bring your attention down at the base of the spine and breathe into that space. You're away from your thoughts, even if it's for 5 seconds. It will give you a reprieve, but it will also tell your body that it can be in a parasympathetic state, meaning that instead of fight or flight, it can tap into its regeneration, creation, healing. If we are always in fight or flight, and most of us are, because there's no immediate physical danger, but our thoughts are telling us there's always a danger. If we sustain that for a long time, our cells forget that we're safe, they forget that we are creative, and then we become sick. And so coming from that place of being, when I come back up to feel, it's very different. My soul gets to communicate with me now. Because in Huna, Michael, the ancient Hawaiians believed that the higher self, which is the soul, and the middle self, which is the mind, were not directly connected. That the higher self, which is the soul, and the lower self, which is the body, are directly connected. So in order to know God, in order to know Source, in order to know divinity, you had to go through the device, the instrument of the body. And so when we come down to the base of the spine, to being, to me, this is where the unmanifest becomes manifest. It's where spirit meets tissue. And now I can feel my soul communicating to me. And it's surprising at first because we don't trust our subjective experience. And a lot of people go on the spiritual path having expectations of what it's going to look like to awaken. And if it doesn't look like that, they dismiss it. It's so subjective that we have to trust how it feels for us, or else we close the door for ourselves. And so coming up to feel and feeling that juiciness of feelings, we don't dwell on feelings from that place anymore. We're not in the story of the feelings, we're in the direct experience of the feelings. Very, very different. Then thought becomes spontaneous thought, and it becomes creative, and it becomes not dual. I see perspective and I have insight as opposed to knowledge. And then I go into do, and Deepak would say it's spontaneous right action. So then there's a beautiful coherence, Michael, and a resonance between my soul, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, my words, and my action. One movement, one reality, one Anne, one Michael.
Of course I can get 1,000 people there. If I break apart the words for a minute, be, feel, think, do, and I look at just the beginning of that, what I hear is pause.
Pause.
Pause. Be, feel, pause. Stop. Breath is a pause. Breath, life, pause. How important is the pause?
It's huge. And it is, in doubt, stop. Stop what you're doing. Pause and take a breath. Deep breath, not an up here breath. Reach for that in-breath deep inside your belly and give your body more oxygen than you are used to. And it's going to feel exaggerated. You might make yourself dizzy, but we don't breathe deeply enough. I say this in the workshops that I lead. I say, if that's the only thing you do this weekend, you don't have to hear a word I say. But if you're sitting there and you're breathing to the extent that you're capable and exaggerate your breath, you leave the workshop changed. And people's like, why I'm always breathing? Why are you saying that? And then we realize, wow, we don't know how to breathe. We breathe enough to survive, but I want to thrive. So there's a deepening of the breath that's important. So the pause is really important. And one of the things that I realized after the book was published is it could have been feel, be, feel, think, do, because to access be, we have to go through feel first. It's to honor our feelings and our emotions first. That is the very first step, because you can't tell someone who is so bottled up with trauma to meditate. It won't work. First, we have to see that person, witness their emotion, and tell them what happened to you is okay. I see you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Tell me more. And then when we allow our feelings to be honored, then we can access B. But we can't access B without some work.
There's something that you mentioned. Thank you. There's something you mentioned a little bit later in your book that I thought is a beautiful way of stepping back to observe you so that you can learn about yourself. Visualizing yourself as a tiny me taking a seat in the back of your head.
It's the observer. I mean, that's an image that works for me. I take a step back. I'm not in the picture. I'm not in the drama. I'm not in the duality. I'm taking a step back and I'm observing what's happening so I can see the 360 of the situation. Because there's always a 360. But we only see one little part when we are stuck in ourselves, like when we're stuck in our perspective. And so taking that step back and just observing and detaching from the personal aspect of the situation. Because the impersonal aspect of the situation is where we can really learn about ourselves and move through and grow and transform and evolve.
Beautiful. Along those lines, there's an amazing quote you have. If we can become aware of the root of our emotions as the sensation in the inner body, we can go beyond the emotion and actually experience what the soul desires for us.
Yes, absolutely. Because the soul communicates through the tissue of the body. So the direct experience in the body is the soul communicating with us. It's also how our past traumas communicate with us, but they're two different. Mm-hmm. One is more collapsing and one is more expansive. So the more that we connect with the inner body, the inner energetic field of ourselves, we start to decode that language for ourselves. It's a language. We're just used to, using a very intellectual language to communicate.
What's inner body mean to you so that people can understand that?
So if you put your hand out in front of you and you start to pay attention to the center of your palm, and as you breathe deeply, I want you to see if you can feel the blood rushing through your palm. And anybody who's listening, be patient with yourself, but see if you can feel the blood rushing through your palm. Maybe even your heartbeat in the center of your palm. Can you feel that, Michael?
Oh yeah, along with a lot of snap, crackle, pop.
So that sensation that you feel of the blood rushing, that's what I mean by the feeling in your body. So if you can bring your attention to your heart, can you feel the actual sensation of your heart beating in the center of your chest? Breathe deeply. Yes. That's subtle, right? It's subtle. And for some people, that's not possible yet. That's okay. But then I invite you to go and see if you can feel the space around your heart. That's even more subtle. That's what I mean. So the palm of the hand is a first step. It's an easier thing to do for people to feel the movement of information, because blood is energy. Energy is information, the movement of information. So I'm talking to you right now. I feel pretty relaxed. I'm in my parasympathetic. I'm breathing deeply. The sensation of being present to myself right now is like my hand. There's movement of energy and there's flow. Well, if you were to say something harsh to me right now, I would have a contraction in my body. Yep. And if I want to If I want to accelerate my evolution and my healing, in that moment, instead of stopping my breath,
Yep.
I increase my breath and I go to how it feels, not here, because right here, right away, I'm going to go, how dare he? What is he saying? Blah, blah, blah. I'm in my mind, in my story.
Yep.
But there's a root to that emotion and to that feeling, and there's a sensation. So I go in the sensation, and when I bring my attention and my breath to where I feel the contraction, it might be in my heart, it might be in my belly, it might be in my back, whatever it is. If I can bring my attention and my breath there, Michael, I am telling my body, we're going to rewire this pattern that is not useful for you anymore. It does not serve you anymore. And then we allow the information, which is the energy, to move. When the trauma happened, when we're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, whatever age, there was an interruption of the information and the energy. And our attention goes up in our head and we interrupt the breath. So returning the breath in the moment of the trigger and bringing the attention to the sensation is quantum healing. Again, years and years in talk therapy, a moment of healing when we are friends with our body in this way.
You're a brilliant teacher. I absolutely love this. When somebody goes for their breath, if they don't have you by your side or the teacher that you had by their side, and you go to take a deep breath, and that moment of fear, of trembling, of you know what it feels like, comes over you, how do we go through it on our own in that moment?
Okay, so you might not be able to go through it on your own, and you have to, it's okay. Then your message is, I need to ask for help. I need to ask for someone to help me, to witness me, to be with me in this moment. And so asking for help, asking for someone to just listen to you without trying to solve your problem, without trying to say anything, just listens to everything you have to say and go through. That is what we need to do for each other. We need to ask for what we want and what we need, and we also need to be there for each other. But remember, if you want to go through it yourself, remember you can never hurt yourself with breath. The body will feel like you're going to die if you take that deeper breath, but you won't. Yes, the old you will die. Yes, the body's saying, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have a panic attack and I'm not going to recover from it. And that's because the body's right. There will be a part of you that will die. Your old self will die. That's what's at stake, and that's what the ego's worried is going to happen. So if you can remind yourself that nobody's ever died from breath. Nobody's ever died.
I love this.
From deepening the breath, then you can trust that your body will catch you. It is designed to process energy and information. It is a bioprocessor of energy and information. And when we go up in our mind, we get in the way of that beautiful processing. We interrupt that processing. This is a really different way of living. I mean, it's radical for a lot of people. But I'm a bit of a junkie for acceleration. I don't know about you, Michael.
Maybe just a little bit.
Once I knew this, I'm like, what else? What else is there? Let's do this.
It's funny when you go for the breath and your thinking mind and your ego is screaming at you, don't do it. It doesn't stand a chance.
I mean, the ego is so afraid of losing control. And losing control is what's needed for the creativity of who you really are to emerge. It's like the goop of the butterfly. Before it becomes a butterfly, it's nothing. It's goop. You would open it and be like, oh my gosh, there's nothing in there. Nothing's happening. And that's not true. That is the trust in that moment. And I call it a wave. I mean, you can feel your throat tightening, like you can feel the intensity, like your head gets hot. And if you could just say, I'm going to ride this wave and go, You would probably be in tears in front of your boss, and you would have a lot of snot on your face in front of your mom, but at least you'd be a little bit more free on the other side of that wave. And please reach out to people. This is why I love group work the most, Michael, is because we can be there for each other and say, hey, I also am going through this. Let me witness you. Because it's not that we had trauma that was the problem, it's that we weren't witnessed. I see this over and over again. The same trauma happens to two people, and one is fine because someone was there to say, I believe you, and I'm going to be here to see you through that emotion until you're done. And the same person was blamed or rejected or alone, and that stays. It's the witness. So that's what we do for each other now. We witness each other so that we can move through what doesn't serve us anymore.
Woohoo! So, speaking, I love it. Speaking about the breath, speaking about the witness, speaking about somebody going with us and tightening up, what happened when you went to go on stage before Wayne Dyer?
Oh, my goodness. This is the difference between how spirit communicates with you and how your past communicates with you. Excitement and anxiety is the same reaction in the body. It's fire in the solar plexus. It's just a different perspective. When we're children, it's all excitement because it's all new and something's about to change and we're excited. As adults, we don't love things to change too much, so it becomes anxiety. I wanted this so badly. Like, I wanted to open up for Wayne. Like, I had the opportunity, I had the invitation, I had my speech all prepared. And I got so nervous the week before that I came down with the flu. I even rolled my ankle. It was like my body was trying to show me what, this intensity I was carrying in my body. But I still did it. And I remember showing up there and kind of hearing this voice in my head, who are you to go and speak there? What do you have to say that these people don't already know? And by the way, they came to see Wayne, they didn't come to see you. And I heard also a voice that said, but you've got this. This is what you wanted, and now you're getting what you want. And so I said to the other voice, I said, well, why don't you come with me? It's okay. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to fight my ego. I'm not going to say you can't come. Come. But I'm going to lead. I'm going to guide this moment. I'm going to speak from that place that I know to be more true than anything else. And so I did. And public speaking has been quite easy after that. That was the fire, the birth through the fire.
I love it. So let's go from there to lilac branches.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know. So we picked up Wayne in Ottawa before the Montreal event. We were driving him from Ottawa to Montreal. And, this was 4 or 5 months before he passed away. And we didn't know, nobody knew. He didn't know he was passing away. Like, he wasn't sick, he was healthy, he was happy. And in the car, we were just talking about, all the projects that we were going to do together in the future and going to Paris and all the beautiful stuff. And suddenly, Wayne's like, stop the car. And we're on the highway and there's like 4 speeding lanes. And I was like, Paul, don't pull over. Like, it's quite dangerous right now. It's like, no, I need to stop the car. So we pull the car over on the highway, and Wayne's like, look at the lilac trees. Well, there hadn't been any lilac trees on this highway at all. Like, it's the middle of nowhere. And there actually was no lilac trees after that. And he says, I want some lilacs. And so lilacs remind him of his mother. Lilacs remind him of Walt Whitman, which he loved the poetry of Walt Whitman. When lilacs bloom in the dark. When lilacs, oh my gosh, how does it go? You have the book in front of you.
I do. Which page? I know it's right before.
Okay, so it's when lilacs in the dooryard bloomed or something.
When lilacs last, this is universe. I opened up to the page. Of course. When lilacs, so it's When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed by Walt Whitman. When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, and the great star early dropped in the western sky in the night, I mourned, and yet shall mourn with ever-returning spring. Ever-returning spring, Trinity sure to me you bring, lilac blooming, perennial and drooping star in the west, and thought of him I love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne.
Exactly. He loved that poem. It reminded him of his mother and where he grew up in Detroit. And the smell of the lilac brought him back to that feeling of comfort and youth and love. And so Paul did. He went across 4 lanes of traffic on the highway. He climbed up the lilac tree, Michael. And I have a picture. Actually, I think it's his Facebook banner. He brought back this bush of lilacs, and for the rest of the trip, there was this beautiful smell in the car. We put it in his hotel room that night. We put it on stage beside him when he spoke that day. And now, just like the scent of rose, when I smell lilacs, I get goosebumps. I just getting goosebumps right now. I just know that's a way that he communicates with us.
So I've got to go there. Please forgive me, since we're going with goosebumps and the smell of rose and probably rose oil in there. Shafine and a message.
Oh my gosh. That was a mind-blowing moment. That was, you can't make this up. I could not believe it. I get a letter in the mail 6 months after Wayne passed away. And the letter says, it's from Texas. And by the way, it had arrived at my old office, and a friend who was in that office kind of walked by the package and felt pulled towards it, like one of those, wait a second. And then she saw it, she's like, this is weird. And it says on it, from Wayne, and then it's from Texas. And my friend had all these goosebumps. She's like, and you got a package from Wayne. Did he die? What is going on here? And so I get this package and I open it up, and it talks about how he needed to share this letter with, it has a lot of information, but he needed to share this letter with all these different people. And the last name on the list is Anne Berube. And on that list, there's Miriam Williamson, there's Deepak Chopra, Anita Moorjani, and then Anne Berube. And Shafine was like, and so he's a Chandler, and he just received this message, and he's like, who is Anne Berube? And so he actually looks me up, and then that's when he sent the package. Well, in the letter, it had a line from Wayne that said, please send this to my daughter, Anne Berube. And the thing is that I talk about this in the book, how he so helped me to reconnect with the father energy in me, because of my relationship with my father and the hurt and the trauma that happened in that relationship. And when I got to know Wayne in a more deep friendship way, that is how I saw him, is as a father. And one night in Maui, a couple weeks before he passed away, maybe a month and a half actually before he passed away, we were sitting together, and there was Reed Tracy was there, and Nancy Levine was there, and a lot of people were there. It was after the workshop. And I was talking to Nancy Levine about my daddy issues. And she was sharing something as well, and we were having a really good conversation. And Wayne eavesdropped, and he heard me say that, and he looked at me with just his piercing blue eyes, and he said, oh my gosh, I wish I'd been your father. And then he kind of went like this, oh, that'd be weird, right? Because he was also he'd make jokes and would hit on us sometimes. He just was a guy. And so everybody laughed at the table because everybody was also a bit awkward. What is he doing? What is he saying? But in that moment, I knew he knew how he helped me heal that. And there's a series of events that happened, and I talk about in the book, how he sat beside my father when I introduced him in Montreal, and he shared the rose oil that he had with my father and this woman named Roseanne. And the rose oil is the only physical gift I received from Wayne. I received a lot of gifts from him, but physical, here, Anne, this is for you, was a flask of rose oil. And so there's a series of events that just showed me how this was just the beginning of our relationship, that he was going to help me on the other side. So when I received that letter, it was such a validation that what I felt to be true in my connection with him, because I had a hard time understanding why it was hard to grieve him so much. We were close, but I wasn't his actual daughter. I didn't spend that much time with him. He lived in Maui, and it was hard to grieve him. It was really hard. And then when I got that letter, I knew that it was a sign of Wayne, that he came through Shafine to reassure me that it was okay, that the reason why I was feeling like that is because there was a deeper level of the relationship that's beyond this human life. In a nutshell.
Woohoo! You say the language. It's Wayne. Period. I get it.
I know, and I know you know that too, right? Because he's so available from the other side. It's unbelievable.
So and he's part of my prayers quite frequently, because we had synchronicities and we had paths that were meant to meet and just swerved at the last moment. But he was a part of my healing journey. When I had NDE number 1, I had been listening to the story of the blue butterfly on my inline skates. As I laced up my skates, rounded a bend, a father teaching his baby how to walk stepped out in front of me. I threw myself up and back to avoid the baby. In a moment, my whole world shifted, but I'd been listening to Wayne intuition. And as I came to with the most glorious grin and just heavenly, the world is the most magical place, I could hear him saying, everything in life happens for a reason. And that was my healing journey, was listening to intuition and listening to Wayne over and over and over again.
Wow. I know it's powerful how his commitment to the human soul, even after he passed away, it's almost like his work is even greater from the other side. Paul, my husband, said that he pulled the Jesus move. He's like, he totally pulled the Jesus move.
I'm out of here.
And I will see you in the next second. Here I am.
I'm back.
I'm back. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, we get to wrap this up and get to a brief meditation. This has been so phenomenal. I can keep going for forever with you. A few quick questions. First off, you say the language of spirit is love.
Yes. So when I am feeling love, and love is synonymous with joy, it's synonymous with light, it's synonymous with gratitude, okay? So when I'm feeling that, I am attuning myself to the vibrations of the soul and of source. It's as simple as that. It's about tuning in with that frequency. And our thoughts are not at the same frequency. So we bring our attention inside ourselves and we bring in the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of love, the feeling of laughter, like belly laugh, like that is a high vibration. Whatever works for you, just allow that feeling to be felt, and then you will see that the communication will enhance. It will enhance. You'll have more of an awareness of what's happening behind the veil of your own soul.
I love it. So on that note, where can people go to find your beautiful book, Be, Feel, Think, Do, and to find out more?
So they can go on my website. It's anneberube.com. So that's ANNEBERUBE.com. And there's my book there. There's some free e-courses. There's my blog. I've been blogging quite a bit lately. And then on Facebook, I have a lot of videos, lots and lots of teaching videos. And so there's lots of beautiful free content to take in. And I have a podcast as well.
Very, very cool. So to find out all of that and to find out more, go to Anne, ANNEBERUBE, Berube.com, or
Yes.
come on over to inspirenationshow.com and we'll get you over to Anne, ANNEBERUBE.com as well. So before we dive into a meditation, 2 quick questions. First off, any words of wisdom for parents and their kids today?
Yes, absolutely. So trust yourself and trust them, because you know and they know. And the system is not set up to support them to be creative spiritual being. It's set up to support them to come back to a norm, to come back to normal. And I've had so many experiences with my kids where my fears crept in and I was like, should I go to the hospital? Should I be worried about this? And then deep underneath, I'm like, wait a second, they're God too. Let me just pause, breathe, and hold space for them.
Yeah.
And my goodness, the empowerment that happened because I did that. I mean, it's self-reliance. You want them to know that they are capable of going through the entire spectrum of their feelings. And what we do is we interrupt that because we're afraid. We say, oh no, that's uncomfortable. So we interrupt the full spectrum of their feeling, and then they're not used to, they become adults and they don't know how to fully feel. Stay with them until they're done. Even if they're angry at you, it has nothing to do with you. It's not about you. Just breathe and hold space for them until they go through the array of emotion, and they will settle because they are in their bodies and they are using their body as a bioprocessor of information. And I did write a blog post about parenting a couple weeks ago. So there's something on there about that.
Perfect. And before the meditation, any last words of wisdom you want to share with people?
Trust yourself. You know the measure of truth is how it feels in your body. And you will go into that dance between what you know and what your mind thinks it knows. Mm-hmm. See if you can validate your deep knowing, because that's where the world changes.
Woohoo! Beautiful. So, do you have time for a brief meditation then?
I do. Okay, so make yourself comfortable.
Unless you're driving a car, then get comfortable later.
Yeah, maybe pull over on the side.
Where there are lilacs.
Exactly. And just place your hands on your lap. And if you turn your hands upward, you're telling the universe that you're open to receiving something new. Don't cross your arms. That says, I don't want anything new. So just keep your arms open and your palms facing up and close your eyes. And bring your attention to your breath. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Reach for your in-breath deep inside your belly, expanding your belly first, then your rib cage, then your shoulders go back and down. And then when you breathe out through the mouth, dropping your jaw, softening the lips, softening the chin, softening the neck. Everything in your voice chakra softens when you breathe out. So it sounds like this. Now deepen your breath and slow your breath down like this. Many of us keep our tongue stuck up on the roof of our mouth. Really allow the tongue to relax and breathe out through the mouth, dropping the jaw. That's it. When we deepen our breath like this, we tell our bodies that we are safe. And safety is an ingredient that is very important for transformation. And when we expand and deepen and slow the breath down like this, we tell our bodies that something new can happen. Take in more air than you normally do and surrender, let go on the out breath. Now imagine that the core of your being, from the base of your spine all the way to the top of your head, opens up like a hollow cylinder. And this beautiful core, this hollow core, opens up from the base of your spine all the way to the top of the head. And imagine that there's a little white feather right at the top of your head floating, and you're going to anchor your attention in the form of a white feather. And you can invite the feather to make her way down in your hollow core. Visualizing the feather going down, down behind your eyes, ever so gently. As you breathe deeply, visualize the feather going down, down behind your nose. And into your throat. Notice and observe how it feels to be there, to have your attention in your throat in the form of a white feather. Don't try to do anything about it. You just observe and notice. Now feel the feather going down your core, past your throat and into your heart space. Take a few deep breaths with your attention in your heart space. Noticing, observing how it feels to be there. Maybe there's a tingling, maybe there's a pain, maybe there's heat, there's a color, whatever it is. Take a note. Make a note inside yourself. Invite the feather to continue her way down into the solar plexus, where your rib cage meets. Ooh, that's the fire center in the body. Take a few deep breaths there. Notice how it feels to be there. And the feather continues her way down into the belly. It's beautiful. Second chakra, all the way down to the base of the spine. Now your attention is anchored in the form of a white feather all the way down at the base of your spine. Take a few deep, deep breaths with your attention down at the base of your spine, into the base of your spine. Anytime you need a break from your monkey mind, the loop of your thoughts, you can bring the feather down your core to the base of your spine. That is where the vibrations are at their lowest, meaning that it is more calm, more still. There's more silence. And we're away from the mind, as far as we can be in the energetic system. There's peace there. And there's a pause here. Breathe deeply. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
And there's a part of me that's saying, I don't want to. This just feels so good.
I usually tell people, Michael, to open your eyes, and if you see that you've lost a connection, close your eyes again. See if you can open your eyes by keeping the connection, because you can live like this. We can live like this.
Woohoo! I'm in bliss. Thank you so, so much, Anne. This has been phenomenal.
My great pleasure, Michael. It's so fun talking to you. I love it, love it, love it. And I love the connection. And I'm just so grateful that you read the book and that you connected with it. And thank you for having me on your show.
We'll keep this connection going. I am sure we will keep this connection going.
Yes, please.
Crank it back up for the finish here. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get, be, feel, think, do, and begin breathing and feeling and pausing with your soul today. and shine bright. Here, I talked over your trill. Let's get that trill again. Woohoo! Thank you so much, Anne. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Michael. Mwah.
Goes both ways. Keep in touch. Let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help.
Oh, Michael, I appreciate that. And same for me, okay? Same for me. If anything I can do, I absolutely love being in conversation with you and supporting you in any way I can.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!